Think about your own neighborhood for a second. Mixed in with the local independent shops, there is often a massive storefront or a factory owned by a brand from a completely different country. Since the 1980s, these corporate giants have increasingly set up shop in developing nations, often called the Global South. Places like Brazil, Nigeria, and Vietnam have become prime destinations for international business. Look at this photo from a Brazilian supermarket. Right next to the local signs and pricing, you see shelves packed with global brands like Nutella. It is a snapshot of a foreign retail company weaving itself into the daily lives of local shoppers. We call these businesses multinational companies, or MNCs. Simply put, an MNC is a company that manages production or delivers services in at least one country other than its home base. This animation shows how they expand, through a process called foreign direct investment, or FDI. FDI happens when a company in one country takes its own money and physically builds a factory, a mine, or a store in another country. When that money crosses the border, it brings a powerful new player into town. The arrival of such a large company changes how the local job market works and even how the surrounding neighborhood looks and feels. So why do these massive corporations pack up and move operations across the globe in the first place? This photo of an oil drilling crew highlights a major reason: direct access to raw materials. Companies are looking for rich sources of oil, minerals, and agricultural land, as well as places where the cost to hire workers is lower than back home. They are also hunting for new customers. In this Mumbai street scene, you can clearly see a Citibank branch integrated into the busy city block. As the middle class grows in countries like India, Mexico, and Brazil, corporations rush in to sell to these new buyers. But there are other motives that are harder to talk about. Sometimes, corporations specifically seek out countries with looser environmental rules and weaker labor protections. Skipping these protections allows a company to cut operating costs in ways that aren't possible in their home countries. Host governments often actively encourage this. Leaders will set aside special economic zones, which are essentially dedicated districts where normal taxes and rules don't apply, to convince a corporation to choose their country over a neighbor. The corporations are doing the math. They want efficiency and the highest possible profit. That drive for profit sets up a complicated relationship with the people who actually live there. Inviting a multinational corporation into your country is like inviting a very wealthy guest to stay in your house. Right away, they might buy new furniture or fix the roof, bringing immediate benefits to the property. You can see those benefits in this image of a garment factory. The corporation provides thousands of steady jobs. They might fund new roads or ports, and they bring in advanced machinery, teaching local workers new technical skills. In fact, looking at this historical photo of early electronics assembly, we know this strategy can work. Countries like South Korea and Taiwan used this foreign investment to rapidly build the modern economies they enjoy today. But what happens when that wealthy house guest treats the home poorly? Local workers can face long hours and unsafe conditions, earning wages that barely cover basic survival. Meanwhile, extractive industries like mining can leave behind pollution and stripped forests. And those small, locally owned shops, they often struggle. A neighborhood store cannot easily compete with the massive scale, supply chains, and marketing budgets of a global brand. This is called profit repatriation. Here, local workers generate wealth through their daily labor. But watch, instead of that wealth staying in the community to build schools or hospitals, the majority of the profits are siphoned right back to the corporation's home country. The host country gets an initial economic boost, but it comes at a price. They risk becoming dependent on the corporation, leaving them vulnerable if the company ever decides to leave. As you watch this scale tip back and forth, it illustrates the central debate. Do these corporations lift developing countries out of poverty, or do they trap them in a cycle of inequality? Supporters point out that direct corporate investment and mass employment are the fastest proven ways to jumpstart a struggling economy. Critics counter that the economic gains are usually short-lived. The wealth stays at the top, the environment pays the price, and the overall gap between the rich and the poor can widen. The reality is that the corporation itself isn't a hero or a villain. It is a powerful tool of globalization. Whether that tool builds a country up or extracts its wealth depends on several factors, most importantly, the rules on the ground. When a host government enforces labor laws and fair taxes, they set the terms for how that corporate power is used. So the next time you walk past a global brand in your own community, ask yourself, are they helping the people who live there? And is the government making sure they follow the rules?